Hey everyone, thank you so much for being with us on another episode of The Possible Show. My name is Cruz Maria Santibáñez, and today I have the honor to be with Antonia, Neet, Childs.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Can we start off first with who you are today? Let the audience know who is Antonia and what does Antonia do today?
Antonia is an entrepreneur and survivor leader today.
And what, so as far as survivor leader, can you go into specifics, into details, why you are a survivor today?
Well, I'm a survivor leader today because not only did I overcome my past situation, but I was able to use my past as my strength to support other young women so that they can also ultimately become survivor leaders as well and give that back.
You fell victim to the second largest and fastest growing criminal business in the world today, and that is sex trafficking. How did that happen?
I was 16, 17, and it was around the time where I was, I was new to the city that I was in. Where I'm originally from is Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And when we moved to North Carolina is when that situation happened.
Okay.
So everything that I've experienced and overcame has been in North Carolina.
Okay.
And again, it was around the time where I just moved to a new city with my family. I wasn't familiar with the city. I didn't have friends or nothing like that.
Right.
So later down the line, I met someone that was way older than me that became that friend and support system.
Okay.
And it was around the time where at an early age, I had became such a provider in my household to support my family. This person would come to where I was working at and he would talk to me. When I kind of expressed the issues that was going on in my household to this person, he would give me $100 at a time to give to my family to support them. So, as a teenager, I'm thinking I'm doing something positive to help my family,
Right.
not knowing that that person had its own intentions.
He was slowly kind of
Right. So
bringing you into the situation without you knowing.
Right. So those conversations led to rides home, and then those rides home led to exploitation. Because that happened to me at that age, I had became involved later on, and even in my late teens, it was something that I developed a lifestyle off of. And because of that, it became addictive for me because there was a way I was taking care of myself, taking care of my family. I didn't see a way out of that.
So you moved from Buffalo, New York to Charlotte, North Carolina. And at that time, you were still trying to grab a hold of the transition from moving to the city. And you're a big supporter financially to your family. And from there...
At that time,
At
yes.
that time. So, and you were 16, 17, so you meet a man and you tell him your financial issues at home and he starts giving you money. And before you know it, you're involved, you're within human trafficking. Is that how it happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it started happening, and I didn't look at it like that back then. But because I had trusted this person and built a relationship over time with this person, I considered that person my friend. Not only was I involved with that, but I was involved with bringing other girls into that lifestyle and showing them that as well. It was a way I took care of myself and financially supported my family. So I didn't see no way out of that. At the time, I was making $800 an hour.
Wow.
So to see that kind of money in that kind of time and to make a transition out of that, I couldn't just go get a job.
Right. So was there ever a time where you noticed that this was human trafficking?
So when you're in that situation, you don't see that, so you're the only person that kind of think that you're going through that particular situation. It didn't really hit hard or hit home until we ran across a documentary that's called Very Young Girls. Very Young Girls was something that Rachel Lloyd did in New York City to highlight how young women and girls were being treated, that were being ignored by social services, and a lot of girls in New York were being exploited and commercially sexually exploited and trafficked in New York. So she came from London, and she was a survivor herself, and saw the need of young girls that were being exploited on the streets as young as 12 years old.
Okay.
So I think at that point is when it really hit me to really want to do something about it.
Right.
And the fact that I saw another survivor make it out of that situation just showed me that it was something else that was possible, that I didn't have to stay stuck in my situation, that I can come out of my situation and talk about it and support other girls. But if I didn't have an example of somebody else that was there and been there and did that, then I wouldn't have thought that it was possible.
Right.
I would have continued to accept my life the way it was.
So Rachel was kind of like the person that gave you strength to say, I can get out of this,
Right.
and I'm going to get out of it?
So around the time of 22, I was still, again, that's when I was going through a phase of, I know I don't want to do this, but what else can I really do in my life, you know?
Feel kind of stuck.
Right. But I was reminded from a stranger, I mean, just through kind of just conversations and someone that was outside of me that looked at things differently and was encouraging me to think differently, you know, asked me what did I always want to do. And I told him that my whole thing was to always have my own bakery and business. I always wanted my own business. So I was inspired by my Aunt Kuna because my Aunt Kuna, she always had a catering company. He just asked me one day, well, why can't you just start your business? And I said, well, how is that? How am I gonna do that? You know, where do I start with that? You know, and I am thinking I need to have this huge, big storefront to have a bakery. You know, I really complicated it. Everything to make me not just do it because, again, you're telling me to transition out of a life that I'm familiar with versus something that I'm not really familiar with. So when he said, why can't you just start it? I'll show you how. You know, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. It was things, it was signs, it was different things that was showing me like, you're gonna have to make a decision. So I would get birthday cake orders. And I'm doing these cakes out of my 1-bedroom apartment. And they would be for little girls' birthdays. Then I might get a call from a John or a buyer, someone that wants to buy sex from me. So I have to decide at that moment, am I gonna make this amount of money with this call I'm getting, or am I gonna bake this $35 cake? I didn't want to disappoint the little girl, so I would do her birthday cake. And the more and more I did that, the more and more empowered I felt doing something that I didn't have to put. You know, I didn't have to put myself through certain things. I just became empowered doing something that I love.
I'm sorry, I think that's something that is very powerful, what you just said. I don't know if you've noticed, but the fact that, you know, you had the choice to get more money or to get only $35. And you voluntarily, gradually, was it more like a gradual thing where you said, I'm not doing this anymore?
For some time, because I still had my life and overhead and different things, I mean, I still gotta live, I still gotta take care of myself. I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out of that situation. But the responsibility and the accountability came in for me when I had to make a decision if I was gonna disappoint a little girl. And because I didn't want to disappoint that little girl and not do that cake is why I made that decision. And then from there, it was still hard, but I still tried to stick with doing those positive things that kept me happy and kept me in a good place.
And away from that.
Right. So eventually, I had to let my apartment go. I had to let my car get repoed. I had to let these things go because I didn't want to do it anymore. But it took me to make that decision. Nobody could change my decision. And the more responsible I felt for other young girls and accountable I felt is how those decisions started being like, I can't do this anymore. I can't disappoint this little girl because I want to do this. I felt like I could take this out into the community and teach girls how to decorate cakes. When I started doing the cake decorating classes at the shelters and stuff like that was when I had a breaking point because then I had to make a decision. I never wanted to talk about my story. I didn't want to talk about anything that I went through. I was too busy trying to stay away from it, to be triggered to talk about it or anything. So what I would do is I would just go, I would bake cakes at home. I would take them to the shelters. Me and the 11 to 12-year-old girls, we would decorate these cakes. We would talk about boys, how we felt about school, our bodies changing as young women. And through these conversations is when I started hearing about other young girls being exploited. And then eventually one girl was trafficked and she was only 12 years old and in the 6th grade in Charlotte. This happened in Charlotte. So I'm sitting here and I was talking to my co-founder about it and he asked me, what are you going to do about it?
He knew what you had been through.
Yeah.
You're stuck with the decision of what am I going to do as a survivor? What am I going to do to help this little girl? And how was that decision for you?
It was a big decision because then it wasn't about me. It wasn't about, just kind of just making everything about me and I'm just not going to say nothing because I'm still dealing with my healing and process or whatever. I think I just felt a huge accountability on my behalf that I didn't want to see another girl slip through my fingers, knowing that I could have supported her or assisted her. So after that, we we started just kind of going to a lot of agencies and nonprofits and talking about it. And then from there, it went in a direction that I never anticipated. It took me in places I never thought.
Hey, that's usually how it goes.
But one huge blessing was Rachel Lloyd's organization, GEMS, reached out to us, and they wanted to order 600 cake pops for a gala they had coming up.
Wow.
And the crazy part was that it was so inspiring, because this was the same woman that I saw in a documentary that I was just kind of like just admired by, and just like, yo, she really made a big sacrifice, and she really gave herself to her organization and created this huge just movement. So I mean, we had stomach ulcers making those cake pops, but it got done, and it was a successful event for her. And then just started building a relationship from there. And that was the biggest inspiring moment for me.
Now, that first time when you saw the documentary the first time, first time, that was the documentary that actually inspired you to remove yourself from that situation.
Right.
So that's awesome. That's amazing. Hey, connection.
It was pretty cool.
You grow stronger and bigger. That's awesome. Shout out to her.
Yeah. Hey, that's my baby. I love me some Rachel Lloyd. I love me some Rachel Lloyd.
And I love you for that too. That's awesome. When you go through something and you're so selfless about your own story, in the hopes that you're going to help someone else. That to me, it's amazing. At
times when you feel like giving up, I got a lot of confirmation, like, no, you're not just about to give up.
Right.
So, and that happened to be one of those confirmations, and that kept me going, and she don't realize how much that impact had on me.
She's gonna know now.
But it was just so much motivation at the time. It became a time at night where I had to make a decision, and I was alone. And that determined if I was going to continue with my organization. And at that time, we were struggling, really struggling. So trying to get, things off the ground with helping girls and that kind of thing, I get this text at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he said, I'm willing to make a donation to your organization if you sleep with me tonight. That was his exact words.
Oh, wow. That was the devil right there.
It was the devil hard. So
what? Right in the face.
Yeah. So what happened was, I was by myself. I couldn't even sleep that night. And I was like, should I do this? What should I do? We don't have any money. We don't have this. I can't pay the rent on the office. Like, how are we going to keep moving forward? Well, if I do this, nobody would know, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I can go do this and pay my rent, act like this didn't even happen. But then I thought about it, and I prayed about it, and I said, you know what? Why would I bring that type of energy into my foundation? If I bring that energy into my foundation, it's not built on the right things.
Right.
So no, I'm not going to do it. God, I don't know where anything is coming from. I don't have no money. I just got rid of my apartment, my car, everything. Didn't have no money. So I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. You got it. I'm putting it in your hands. I went to sleep. And about a week later, one of our close friends at the time, she wanted to do a small fundraiser or something for us with a group of women at her house, 10 women. So when I was at that little house gathering, I was telling the women at the house what I had experienced that same week, this thing was. And it was a woman at the event. She came up to me, didn't even realize what she was doing. But she gave me a check for the same amount he offered me and said, this is for your strength. At that event, she didn't know what he offered me, none of that, but it was the same amount that she gave me. And I just cried, because I was like, what?
That was God.
It's nothing that God can't do.
Exactly.
And that's just, you could not tell me about my faith. You couldn't tell me he wasn't real.
Get it, girl.
It was just like, wow. He showed me right then and there, because you were faithful and because you continued to move in that path and you didn't give up, now you can do this.
Amen.
I had to face that by myself. No Kofi, no Brian, none of my support systems, nobody. It was me by myself 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you going to do? And that was a struggle. Like, it was like, I was the only person that could make that decision.
That was more of like the point where you were able to say, this is not who I am anymore. You know, this is it. Now, throughout this time, you were talking about your bakery and how it started. So the bakery, it's called Neet Sweets. That's what it's called. And how did you come up with that name?
So Neet Sweets, Neet Sweets is my nickname. My nickname is Neet.
Okay.
Everybody calls me Neet. So that's where it came from.
And
so.
it combines too.
Yeah. It do rhyme, yeah.
And it rhymes. That's awesome.
Yep.
Now, you start baking cakes and you have Neet Sweets Bakery. And now your next goal almost, or if you want to put it that way, but you didn't even know probably that it was going to happen, is market your mind. What is that service? What do you do, and what do you do to help others?
Right. So Market Your Mind, for short we say MYM, was started off of an argument with my co-founder and I. And at the time we were arguing over something, and he said, why can't you just market your mind and not your body? And when he said that, you know, I thought about it and was like, you're right. Like, so through MYM, we encourage, equip, and exemplify positive transformation in young women in this highly sexualized society, and want it to be about their dreams and what they want to do and help them get there. So, having an example for them is so important, beyond just talking about rescuing and safe houses and all of that. It's life after. And for the rest of their life, you know, we want them to be able to plug into us and get that support, and also, you know, plug them into supports that can help them get to their dream as well. So let's find out what you want to do. We don't call our girls victims, we call them displaced entrepreneurs.
Hey,
and you know, so they all have these gifts, and they all can make their gifts marketable.
Wow.
So that's the purpose of MYM.
Wow. What's the age? Is there an age range that they have to be?
Yes, well, currently we're working with young women and girls ages 12 to 21.
What has been maybe the biggest challenge that you have faced now helping these girls?
What we have to stop doing as people is we have to look at it like, okay, it's not my child, so I don't have to worry about it. We have to talk about taking care of these children, not just, you know, our children. If everybody uses their strengths, then we'll have we'll be more effective in this work. But if we continue to ignore it and just kind of wipe it or put it under the rug, it's going to get bigger, because it's getting bigger.
If it was somebody you knew that was looking at you right now, that has fallen victim to this, what is something that you would want them to know?
One thing I would want them to know is that it doesn't stop there, that your life still continues. We all have a purpose, and we all have a gift that was given to us. If you're going through any barrier, it's meant to be there for you. Once you get past that barrier, so much opens up for you, more than you ever imagined. So just stay positive and continue to love yourself, because that's a gift that has to be given to other people. And we all go through things to show other people that they can make it through their situation and give back. That's what it's about.
That is amazing. Thank you so much,
No
Antonia.
problem.
Thank you, and I am so eager to see this place in the next coming months.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have
It's
cakes around
on.
here, we're going to have cakes over there, and that's just going to be amazing. I'm excited, and I'll be back because I want a bite of everything that you have in here.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
With you guys, Antonia, we are the possible